Welcome to this technical deep dive into some of the background lore of the Hegira Contravention series. My name is Drew Wagar, and I'm the author of this series of space opera books. Military ships in the Hegira Universe are bound by the same physical constraints as any other vessel, but they're designed in quite a different way. The large ships operate with very, very large and powerful engines. The designs of the ships are entirely built with redundancy in mind, so their loss of several systems still allows the ship to maintain operational readiness at any stage. So you'll see multiple fuel tanks, you'll see multiple engines, and you'll see multiple heat radiation fins, which allow the vessel to continue to work regardless of any damage that it might pick up. This particular one, as you can see, also has reverse engines as well. One of the things I considered in the design of the military ships was that they may not have time to flip end over end in order to decelerate as they're approaching a target. So engines that can operate both in forward and reverse directions make a lot of sense. And that this particular ship is designed with that maneuverability in mind. Now, these ships are capable of pushing far higher G-forces than the civilian ships. Probably up to and exceeding what the human body can actually tolerate. So, as we'll discuss in other videos, people in the Hegira universe do have gene therapy and various other modifications to allow them to cope with G-forces that would be in excess of anything that humans today would manage to cope with. Military vessels are equipped with all sorts of stealth and weaponry technology. You can see here the ship is running at full throttle, generating a lot of heat. This would not be a stealth mode. One of the biggest problems you have trying to hide in space is, in fact, heat. Because the moment you move, the moment you start using your engines, your ship is giving off a very, very visible heat profile, which means it's entirely visible to anybody who is happening to look for you. Infrared radiation obviously travels at the speed of light, and you will be visible to anybody who's looking across the solar system. So the moment you move, you are detectable to any other ship, and minimizing your infrared and your electromagnetic trace will be a key maneuvering constraint for these big ships. So the tactics are not dissimilar from submarine warfare in current times, where you spend an awful lot of time sneaking around very, very slowly, and only in very desperate moments do you run your engines at full speed and attack. The moment you make a move, you're detectable. And the closer you are to your potential attacker or your potential defender, the less time you have to maneuver, because the speed of light means that you're going to get more and more up-to-date information. Spacecraft combat is a very complicated and curious undertaking in space. It's all about stealth, it's all about keeping a low profile, and it's also about not using any kind of active scanners, because the moment you use an active scanner, you're going to get a very, very strong trace on where the enemy is. But you're also going to give away your own position immediately as well. So stealth for these kind of vessels. The key weaponry aboard these type of ships is going to be torpedoes and missiles. These will be fired from great distance. They'll be very unlikely for these type of ships to engage each other at point blank range and sort of slug it out with any kind of close range weaponry, because you'd just be instantly incinerated by that point and you would have lost. So these ships will conduct their warfare with long range weaponry, probably guided, also stealth, and the idea being to trick your opponent into giving away the position so you can effectively sling a load of missiles or torpedoes in their direction. So quite a different type of space combat to the sort of thing that you would probably used to have in a classic space opera. This is much more grounded in what I think is going to be a realistic combat model for a physically realistic universe. Now, there are different classes of ships. This is a smaller vessel. This one really is designed to deliver a vast amount of ordnance as fast as possible and pretty much nothing else. As you can see, it's effectively a series of torpedo tubes bolted to a fuel tank and an engine. So there'll be different classes of ships for sort of space superiority. There'll be different classes of ships for attack runs. There'll be different classes of ships for stealth and surveillance, and so on and so forth. Different ships will be designed for different things. They'll have strengths and weaknesses depending on the role that they're designed to perform. And obviously, like any navy, you'll need to deploy the right combination of ships in the right order. Now, there are also much smaller vessels applying the space lanes, which are also potentially aggressive or hostile. Smaller privateer vessels will be out there attempting piracy. And rather than blazing up on the trail and shooting you down with laser beams, the way these ships will intercept their targets is simply by speed. They're designed to be as fast as possible so they can outrun any freighter. And in space, it's much more about delta V, i.e. the change in velocity that you can apply, than it is the actual velocity that you achieve at any particular point in time. So it's all about acceleration and the ability to accelerate or change your speed. These vessels will be capable of manoeuvring very quickly. When they get into range, they're going to deploy EMP weapons to disable onboard systems of the ship they want to attack, and then they're going to grapple it in close and attempt to physically pinch cargo from the other ship. Of course, alternatively, they may simply threaten the other ship and force it to drop its cargo without any damage being undertaken, which is better for all concerned, but it depends on the response of those under attack as to what they're actually going to do. The key weapon in the Hegira universe is the guided missile. Easy to shoot, easy to deploy, and once it's off, it's effectively automated. It won't have any pilots on board, so its acceleration is limited only by the thrust of the engine, which means it can exceed the speeds of the delta V, should I say, of any ship in the universe by some considerable margin. If one of these is on its way towards you, it's bad news, because speed is really the key thing in terms of spaceship combat. You don't need an explosive warhead when it's travelling very, very fast. One of these things is bearing down at you at a high rate of knots. It's going to do an awful lot of damage just by hitting you. You don't need an explosive warhead in that scenario. It's all about speed. Now, if one of these things is coming towards you, you've got various options. You will try and outmaneuver it, but it will be able to maneuver as well. You may have to shoot it down. So all the ships in the Hegira universe have some form of defensive anti-missile, anti-torpedo technology. But clearly, if one of these is coming towards you and has locked on target and is adjusting its course, you're going to potentially have a very, very, very bad day indeed. So that concludes this little deep dive into some of the military hardware in the Hegira universe. Hope you've enjoyed that and look forward to the next video.